Over half of all animals in the open ocean drift in currents. Jellyfish cross entire oceans, feeding on whatever happens to tangle with their tentacles. Some can grow to 1 meter, even 2 meters across. And when, by lucky chance, they encounter a patch of sea rich in plankton, their numbers explode. It's such a successful strategy that jellies are one of the most common life forms on the planet. But among the jellies, and looking somewhat like them, is a rather more complex and sinister creature. The Portuguese man-o'-war. It floats with the help of a gas-filled bladder, topped by a vertical membrane. With that serving as a sail, it maintains a steady course through the waves. Long threads trail behind it, some as much as 30 meters long. Each is armed with many thousands of stinging cells. A single tentacle could kill a fish, or, in rare cases, a human. But among its lethal tentacles lurks a man-o'-war fish that feeds by nibbling them. Whilst this fish has some resistance to the stings, it must still be extremely careful. Most other fish are not so lucky. Has caught this one and reels it in. It's already paralyzed. Specialized muscular tentacles transfer the victim to others that digest the catch, liquefying it with powerful chemicals. Eventually, all that is left is a scaly husk. This voracious man-o'-war may collect over 100 small fish in a day. The struggle to survive in our green seas can have far-reaching consequences. Once a year, one particular meadow in Australia is transformed. Around the first full moon of winter, an army materializes. Spider crabs. For the past year, they've been feeding in deeper waters. Now they march across the seagrass plains. Hundreds of thousands of them. They clamber over one another. Creating great mounds. Nearly 100 meters long. They're not seeking mates, neither are they laying eggs. They have come here in order to grow. Like all crabs, their bodies are enclosed in a hard, unexpandable shell. So, to grow, they have to break out of it. And that allows the soft one that has developed beneath to expand. It will take days for the new shell to harden. Its legs are so limp that they won't work properly. The crab is unprotected and in great danger. A smooth stingray. It's huge, about 4 meters long. It wants a soft, freshly molted crab that will be easier to eat. The crabs try to stick together. But now, disturbed by the ray, they're scattering. A newly molted crab is too weak to keep up with the crowd. The safest place is right in the middle of the pile. That is why they have all assembled here. There is safety in numbers. But the vast majority of the crabs escape, and within the next few days they will be ready to return to the depths and resume their lonely wanderings in search of food. This is no graveyard, but the triumph of 100,000 crabs successfully molted. A Sally Lightfoot crab, one of thousands of shore crabs just waiting for their moment. Every day they gather on the tropical shores of Brazil, waiting for the tide to go out. Which exposes their feeding grounds, seaweed-covered rocks 100 meters from the shore. Getting there is a race against the tide. They leap from rock to rock. These crabs seem to be afraid of the water. And for good reason. A moray eel. The chain moray is a specialist crab hunter. Its blunt teeth can easily grip and crush a crab's shell. It's the crab's deadliest enemy. But the crab's feeding grounds are still a long way off. They must press on. Halfway. But their enemy has other ideas. Crossing the land. To reset the ambush. To feed, the crabs must keep going. But nowhere is safe. An octopus, also a crab killer. The crabs make a dash for it. made it. Risking life and limb to graze on these seaweed pastures. But in 2 hours' time, when the tide starts to turn, they will have to run the gauntlet all over again. This is a poison dart frog. Males raise their young in a very special way. A father will place each one of his tadpoles in its own tiny pool of water. This is one, nice and safe. He might have up to 5 other tadpoles, but he needs to remember where he put each one of them. This one isn't doing so well. Its tiny puddle has all but dried out. The tadpole will die unless its father can find a better place for it. If dads are good for one thing, it's piggyback rides. Fathers are no bigger than a human thumbnail, but this enables them to get to places that others can't. This could be perfect. The only problem is that there's no food here. Fathers need help. Somewhere in this forest is Mum. A female could do something a male cannot. But first, Dad must lead his partner to their hungry tadpole. And Mother deals with the problem. She lays a single, unfertilized egg. And her tadpole gets a much-needed meal. For the next 6 weeks, parents continue their rounds, an extraordinary test of teamwork and memory. Out here on the sand flats, there is safe accommodation for some. A family of saddleback clownfish have found an excellent home. The tentacles of this carpet anemone can kill, but the clownfish are immune to the poison. So they can shelter from danger. In return, the fish keep the anemone clean of debris. As with all clownfish, the family is ruled by a big female. Her white face marks her out as the boss. The diminutive male has to prove his worth, so he works tirelessly, removing debris and generally keeping on top of the housework. His greatest challenge is to find a safe place where the boss can lay her eggs. But there's nothing solid here for the female to lay them on. A nearby shell could be the solution. If only he can move it to the protection of the anemone. Too heavy. Besides, it has a mind of its own. Hermit crab. But out here, twice a day, the anemone is swept by tidal currents, and they bring in new opportunities. An old plastic bottle. Perhaps this will do. Not heavy enough. Coconut shell. It looks just right, but it's a long way from home. And he can't move it by himself. So the pair now work together. A little adjustment to the anemone's tentacles in order to clear a space for it. And the shell is tucked in. The female lays. A safe nursery at last. He has proved himself worthy to father her young, and he fertilizes them. Now he will meticulously tend the eggs, keeping them clean and healthy until they hatch in 10 days' time. They're bullied constantly. and forced to live on the fringes of the troop. As outcasts, their only comfort is each other. He's been snatched, stolen by a higher-ranking female. She is childless, and she wants a baby of her own. He's only a few meters away, but if his mother approaches, the rest of the troop could well attack her. The kidnapper has never raised a baby before, so this one is in danger. They're headed towards a cable car tower. The young mother can't let them out of her sight. They're 30 meters up. If she tries to grab her baby and fails, he could fall to his death. The kidnapper refuses to surrender him. There's one last thing a mother can try, and to do it, she needs to recruit another macaque. Now the mother begins to groom her companions in full view of the kidnapper. All monkeys love to be groomed, even by a low-ranking female. It's the basis for peace in macaque society. Eventually, the urge to join in is just too strong. The kidnap is over, and the youngster can climb back into his mother's arms.
Sea snakes. At one time, these snakes' ancestors lived on dry land. They must still visit the surface to breathe. But they are beautifully adapted to life at sea, hunting for fish around the island reefs. They have some of the most toxic venom of any animal, so they don't have many predators. But as they forage off the coast of one small island, their greatest nemesis is approaching. Yoko and Setsuko are hunters, and they have a fearsome reputation. These two 70-year-olds are on a shopping trip like no other. Yoko and Setsuko live on the tiny island of Kudaka. It's only 4 kilometers across, and with limited space on land, the locals look to the sea to provide. As the sun sets, the lady's prey is approaching. On certain summer nights, venomous sea snakes move towards the island and gather in coastal caves, looking for shelter and fresh water to drink. But coming ashore on this island is extremely risky. It takes some nerve to wade in with no protective clothing. Sea snake venom can be 10 times more powerful than a rattlesnake's. Yoko has been hunting snakes for 40 years. It's a skill that's been passed down the generations here for at least 5 centuries. The snakes will be dried in this smokehouse using a secret process known only by the hunters. Then they go into a special soup. The catching and eating of sea snakes is a very old tradition on the island of Kudaka, where the sea provides more than the land.
The blue shark. It travels over 8,000 kilometers a year, riding on the currents supported by its broad wing-shaped fins. This one may not have eaten for 2 months. But the currents can carry promising traces of fatty oils from many kilometers away and will lead it to its next meal. After days of travel, the smell of food gets stronger. A dead whale recently struck by a ship. This could be a real feast. But the blue shark must be cautious. Great white sharks, 10 times heavier than a blue, are highly possessive around a whale carcass. Whites are eager to feed on energy-rich whale blubber, which we now know forms a major part of their diet. Once the great white has had its fill, smaller sharks, like the blue shark, tackle what's left of a carcass. As the oils from this dead whale spread more widely, more and more blue sharks appear. The carcass will be stripped of its blubber. Then, no longer kept buoyant by its oil, it will sink into the depths below. The blue, with its reserves of fat replenished, can now survive for another 2 months without eating. A little red flying fox. Their ancestors flew here, travelling along the chain of volcanic islands that links Asia to Australia. But their huge wings, which stretch from their fingers to their toes, make it difficult for them to walk or take off from the ground. So when they want to rest, they hang upside down in trees. But the bats have to drink every day. And they do so on the wing. They swoop just low enough to wet their bellies, and then, back in their roosts, they will suck out the water. Each evening, 10,000 of them come here. Not all of them return. Every 2 meters of river, there is a crocodile. They were here long before the bats. Survivors from Australia's prehistoric past. These dramas have been taking place for millions of years. Aerial agility versus patience and deadly speed. Australia's forests are hostile places in which to make your home. In a far corner of Southeast Asia lies the Coral Triangle, a cluster of the richest coral reefs in the world. Undersea cities crammed full of life. As in any crowded metropolis, there is fierce rivalry for space, for food, and for a partner. But the reef is also a place full of opportunity. A cuttlefish. It specializes in hunting crabs. But a large crab is a dangerous quarry. It has powerful claws. The cuttlefish, however, has a remarkable talent. Its skin contains millions of pigment cells with which it can create ever-changing colors and patterns. And that, apparently, hypnotizes the crab. A cuttlefish may be clever, but a shark is bigger. And it eats cuttlefish. Time to disappear. Back to the hunt. A new target, but the same mesmerizing technique. For those that manage to establish themselves in these bustling undersea cities, there can be great rewards. During the dry season, over 500,000 terns crowd onto this remote atoll in the Indian Ocean. Their chicks are still in their dark juvenile plumage. They vary in age. Whilst the more advanced chicks take to the air, others aren't quite ready yet. Those just starting to learn to fly use the shallow lagoon that occupies the centre of the atoll as their training ground. It's difficult for some of them to stay aloft for long. Usually, they are solitary hunters, but about 50 of them have come here from neighbouring reefs, attracted by this abundance of potential prey. The fledglings stay out of the water if they can. They even drink on the wing. If the trevally are to catch one now, they have to up their game. So there is a fish here that, amazingly, has a brain capable of calculating the airspeed, altitude, and trajectory of a bird. The time comes when every fledgling has to take to the air and collect food for itself. Their parents lead them to the training grounds. how to survive, they must learn quickly. After a month of practicing over the lagoon, the youngsters start to leave and take their chances out over the open sea. Somewhere along this seemingly barren stretch of sand, there is food in great quantity. Fur seals. There are around 10,000 of them here. Adult seals are large and strong. But their pups are neither. The youngsters are closely guarded by their mothers. The hyena, however, knows to be patient. Sooner or later, seal mothers must return to the ocean to cool off. A single seal pup could feed a hyena and her family for days. But finding food is only half the battle. It now has to be carried back. A jackal is here too. And it's not alone. If a hyena loses her kill, she'll have nothing with which to feed her cubs. The jackals won't follow her very far from the coast. It's too hot for them in the desert interior. Only by making these long journeys can brown hyenas manage to survive in the middle of the Namib. Off the south coast lies by far the biggest of them, Tasmania. And that has its own special marsupial. One that seldom appears until after dark. The Tasmanian devil. Many predators inhabit a territory packed with prey. But here, there's nothing like that for them. Each may travel for miles, night after night, prepared to eat anything it can find, dead or alive. The shoreline is a good place to search. There might be some small creatures to catch here, or maybe something that the tide has brought in. The carcass of a wallaby has been washed ashore. Tasmanian devils can eat 40% of their body weight in one session. and they have hugely powerful jaws. They tackle everything, even bones. Back at the den, there are other hungry mouths. Her two youngsters are 6 months old. They still rely on their mother's milk, but they're feeling peckish. There must be something solid they could find for themselves while they're waiting for a drink. Is this food? That possum smells tasty, but it's a little high up. This looks more promising. At last, a giant stick. Not bad for a first go. Their mother will protect and feed these youngsters for another 3 months. Their survival is important to her, but also for us. Because these are one of the last devil families in the world. Tasmanian devils are now endangered. Found in only a few places, such as this remote islet off the coast of Tasmania.
The Sika deer have started creeping into the lush cultivated fields. It's a whole new world. These fields are brimming with specially sown grass, intended for cattle. But this herd always seems to be one step ahead, helping themselves to the best grass before it can even be cut. Every year, deer can munch their way through over £30 million worth of crops. But some farmers have developed a live and let live attitude. The deer are reaping the benefits of Hokkaido's human landscape. In a place like this, it pays to be adaptable. In the warmth of early summer, the red-crowned cranes have moved into the farmland waterways. And they have a new family member. They traditionally nest in marshes, but most have been drained. So the cranes are raising their chick in an irrigation channel. All through the summer, the chick will be entirely dependent on its parents for food. The channel is teeming with insects, fish and frogs. But the parents can barely keep up with their gangly offspring's appetite. The family won't be able to move on until the chick can fly. In the meantime, they can't escape from surprise visitors. The Sika deer have managed to wander right into the path of a pair of cranes with a week-old chick. Mum and Dad work together to shepherd the chick to safety. And then a quick flash of the dagger-like beak to make sure the deer keep their distance. The parents' diligence has paid off. Their priority now is to feed their chick while times are good. It's the breeding season, and the trees are teeming with frogs. The female is with a male at the tip of a branch, perched above the paddy pool. She's building a nest by whipping up a giant ball of foam with her back legs. She lays hundreds of eggs inside. She's attracting the attention of other males. Each male could still fertilise some of the remaining eggs in the foam. They're coming in from all directions. But the foam makes it hard to get to grips with the competition. Things quickly descend into an undignified wrestling match. This male's work here is done. It's time to move on and find other nests. But when you're covered in slippery foam, it's hard to leave with dignity. It's an unusual problem for a tree frog. As the days pass, the eggs develop in the safety of their foam nest. The temperature rises with the summer sun, and the foam ball dries to form a protective case. The tadpoles inside are still moist and 6 degrees cooler. But the little tadpoles need rain. At this time of year, warm air is rising over the steep Honshu Mountains, and clouds are starting to build. The tree frogs have timed their nest building perfectly. After 20 days, conditions are just right, and the waiting is over. The hard foam starts to dissolve, and the tadpoles drop out, straight into the nursery pool of the rice paddy below. They feast on the remaining pieces of the nest, a final meal before they take their chances in the big wide world. Their mother has pulled off a remarkable feat of planning.
But most of the creatures come together for a very different reason. To breed. The giant cuttlefish, the largest of all cuttlefish. They live for just 1 or 2 years. Now, as the Australian summer draws to an end, they have one last act to complete. To find a mate. But there are over 100,000 males competing for the arriving females in this one bay. Among them, a giant, a true Goliath. He probably weighs about 10 kilos. Bands of colour sweep across his skin. That's how cuttlefish communicate. This smaller male couldn't possibly take him on. Beside Goliath and under his protection, a female who has just mated with him. But other rivals are still interested. It seems a small male wouldn't stand a chance. The female is now displaying a white stripe along her side nearest Goliath. It's a clear signal that she no longer wants to mate with him. It's all the encouragement that the little male needs. He's going to have to use trickery. He tones down his colours and tucks in his arms. He's just the right size to mimic a female. Goliath is deceived. The small male now displays a white stripe, just like the real female, to deter his advances. He slips beside her, and they mate. By mating with multiple partners, the female ensures the greatest genetic diversity for her young. The sneaky male leaves, his final act complete. So even among giant cuttlefish, it seems, it's not all about size. In the underwater forests off northern Japan, the residents of this sunken wreck are waiting for the summer temperatures to reach 16 degrees Celsius. That, for some, is the time for mating. A kind of giant wrasse called a crocodile. This is a male. And in female terms, he is particularly handsome. He's a meter long and weighs 15 kilos. Much larger than the diminutive female. And he is ready to breed. He attempts to mate with her, and with any of the other dozen or so females that live in his territory, whenever he gets the chance. But females from around 10 years old take little notice of his advances. This is because when any large female reaches a critical body size, she can begin a dramatic transformation. Over just a few months, particular enzymes inside her body cease to work. And male hormones start to circulate. As time passes, her head expands and her chin gets longer. A she has changed into a he. With this comes a change in temperament. The old male who ruled all the females here is challenged to a face-off. The more bulbous the head, the more it intimidates an opponent. The territory has a new ruler. Only the largest females transform themselves in this way, But the change enables them to have more mates, so they will have many more offspring carrying their genes. But a new male can't afford to be complacent. Inside the body of every Cobudi female, there is a new male in waiting. The oceans around southern Asia are also feeling this pressure. These seas feed billions of people around the world. For many fishermen here, their catch is their only source of livelihood. And there is one fish here that they prize above all others. The whale shark. It swims slowly, gently harvesting the plankton. It's almost 20 meters long, the largest fish in the world. They are also under threat. Like many shark species in Asia, populations have declined by more than half in recent years. They are an easy and valuable catch. But here, there is a respect for the seas and their inhabitants. Whale shark hunting has now been banned across Indonesia's waters. This whale shark plays a different part in the lives of these fishermen. They feed him, and the relationship seems to bring joy to both parties. And with this new protection has come something truly remarkable. Whale sharks from far away are seeking out these fishermen, and in these safe waters, there is a chance for their numbers to increase. And maybe one day, other shark species will be protected too. The people here have made a simple but extraordinary choice. Fishing in a way that is sustainable for themselves and the animals. Caring for wildlife is surely our shared responsibility. Across this vast continent and across the world, it is decisions like these that are key to protecting the planet's most precious diversity. The Great American Deserts cover over 2.5 million square kilometers. Here, roasted by the sun and blasted by the wind, the rocks disintegrate and mountains, particle by particle, are reduced to sand. These pillars are all that remain of a plateau where dinosaurs once roamed. Few animals can now survive here. In summer, as in all deserts, the enemy is heat, and it returns every day. At 7 in the morning, the temperature is already 25 degrees Celsius. The clock is ticking for one unusual descendant of the dinosaurs. A Roadrunner, found only in the deserts of North America, built for a life on the ground. He can run at over 30 kilometers an hour, but the prey he seeks are one step ahead. The Roadrunner's challenge is picking the right target. A Gila monster. Too big. By mid-morning, it will be 40 degrees Celsius. Even the smallest lizards will soon head for cover. A centipede. Slim pickings for the morning's work. Hunting should get easier and prey will stay out longer once the summer's peak begins to fade. And wave power creates towering fortresses like these cliffs in the Arctic, home to tens of thousands of breeding seabirds. The faces of the cliffs are accessible only from the air and have plenty of nooks and crannies for those that can get there. But to feed, seabirds must still master the ocean world beyond. A puffin. He's a fisherman and a father. He has a mate for life. Both share the burden of raising their week-old chick, their Puffling, who needs 5 square meals a day. The parents alternate fishing trips. It's Dad's turn. When fish stocks are low, puffins must fly as much as 50 kilometers out to sea to reach the good fishing grounds. Once there, they plunge into another world. Good fishing spots are hard to come by, and they have company. Guillemots. Like the puffin, their wings are short and good for diving. Puffins can hold their breath for over a minute and dive as deep as 40 meters. A catch. But it's a long way home. After an exhausting round trip of almost 100 kilometers, this puffin's nearly made it. But there are pirates on this coast. Arctic skuas. All around, returning parents are being robbed. The skua's long, raked-back wings make them faster and more maneuverable. Puffins must choose their moment wisely. A near miss. A last desperate burst of speed, and it's made it. Safely home after a 3-hour round trip. where his patient partner is waiting. Today, their Puffling will eat. But where fish numbers are in decline, many puffins now find it hard to get enough food for their chicks. In the changing seas of today, it can be even harder to be a successful puffin parent. A kilometre from the surface, beyond the reach of the sun. A giant black void, larger than all the rest of the world's habitats combined. There's life here, but not as we know it. Alien-like creatures produce dazzling displays of light. Nearly all animals need to attract mates and repel predators. This language of light is so widespread here that these signals are probably the commonest form of communication on the entire planet. And yet, we still know little about them. Hunters illuminate themselves and, by doing so, attract inquisitive prey. This is Fangtooth. It has the largest teeth for its size of any fish. There are pressure sensors all over its head and body, which can detect anything moving in the surrounding water. It's the Midnight Zone's most voracious fish. But prey use light as a distraction. A decoy of luminous ink. Down here, in this blackness, creatures live beyond the normal rules of time. Siphonophores are virtually eternal. They repeatedly clone themselves. Some eventually growing longer than a blue whale. Down here, it snows. Continuous clouds of organic debris drift slowly down from above. This is food, and a whole variety of filter feeders depend on it. jellyfish. And delicate sea cucumbers. The 1% of marine snow they miss eventually settles on the sea floor. Over millions of years, it forms a layer of mud up to 1 kilometre thick. It's an empty plain that covers half the surface of our planet. The deep seabed may at first appear lifeless, but it's home to a unique caste of mud dwellers. The sea toad. It is an ambush predator with an enormous mouth and infinite patience. This fish has been living for so long here that its fins have changed into something more useful. Feet. They help it shuffle about on the seafloor. The flapjack octopus. It hovers just above the surface of the mud as it delicately sifts through it, searching for worms. But it can jet away at the first sign of danger. Here, there are other challenges. St Andrews Bay on South Georgia is packed with 500,000 king penguins. In spring, the chicks are left for days whilst their parents are away collecting food for them. There is a simple arrangement. The chicks must stay exactly where their parents left them to be sure of being found again. But this chick has decided to look around. There is a lot to be investigated. but it must not stray too far from its meeting place. This parent has returned with food in its crop, but its chick isn't where it left it. It's hard to stay put when there's so much to play with. Elephant seals are here too. Very mysterious. Finding it in the crowd of youngsters is not going to be easy. They must recognize each other by their calls. But to hear these in such a noisy colony, they must be within 15 meters of each other. Reunited. A mother black bear is looking for something suitable for her cubs. This is their first ever trip to the seaside. In a few hours, the tide will return. So they must keep up with Mum. Here's something tasty. Crabs. Big crabs can give a nasty nip, so it's best to start off with smaller ones. During spring, 3/4 of the bear's food comes from the beach. But now, this family is not alone. An adult male. He is double her size, and they're in his territory. The cubs know that call. It's time to head for safety. Bears have poor eyesight, but their sense of smell is acute, and the male has detected intruders. He knows exactly which tree they are in. If the cubs stay up there, they'll be safe, but they're losing precious feeding time. For now, he's content to leave his scent mark. A warning note for trespassers. The family moves on. For the cubs, lunch today will have to be a takeaway. The tide comes in, and within minutes, feeding time is over for another day. The Kalahari Desert. Here, food is more plentiful, but it's hidden. A pangolin. She can collect food that others can't reach. A keen sense of smell enables her to detect the presence of ants and termites in their nests beneath the sand. Her sticky tongue, some 30 centimeters long, enables her to collect them from deep underground. And she's being carefully watched. The drier it gets, the deeper the termites live. Many are way beyond the reach of even a pangolin. But not of an aardvark. It's the world's largest burrowing animal. Its sense of smell is extremely acute. Shovel-like claws and powerful legs enable it to dig down to depths of 5 or 6 meters. A full-grown aardvark needs to eat about 50,000 termites every day. Termites are highly nutritious and full of moisture, and they can be collected here year-round. Aardvark are usually nocturnal. But the fact that this one is foraging in daylight is a sign that food is scarce. Recent droughts in the Kalahari have led to low termite numbers, and as a consequence, aardvarks here are close to starvation. Changes in the world's climate are affecting many of Africa's animals. It's predicted that in the next century, southern Africa will warm twice as much as the global average. The future will be bleak for those that cannot adapt fast enough. Termites, an important source of protein. But perhaps they are an acquired taste. He's off to search for something he might prefer. It's hard to know where to look. Or where it's safe to clamber. Different levels in the forest contain different foods, and some of the most delicious are in the very highest parts of the canopy, 50 meters above the ground. He's a couple of years old, and he's already getting adventurous. His mother could climb right to the top in 10 minutes or so if she wanted to, but she lingers to keep an eye on him. A fall from this height could be fatal. Where the gaps between the branches are too wide for him, his mother lets him use her body as a bridge. Only 10 meters to go before the top. But it's hard going for small hands. He's had enough. Time for a rest with Mother. And this is his reward. Ripe mangoes, sweet and juicy. There's so much he must learn. He will depend entirely on his mother until he's 7. It's the longest of all childhoods, except ours. In the Gulf of Mexico, these eruptions also release a super salty liquid. brine. It's heavier than seawater, and it accumulates in great pools on the seafloor. It's difficult to make sense of the sight. A lake of concentrated salt water, 15 meters deep, at the bottom of the sea. Around its margin, perhaps even more strangely, there is a profusion of life. Giant mussels that can live and grow for a century or more pack tightly together, dwarfing the shrimps and squat lobsters that feed around them. Cutthroat eels, scavengers, come to the shores of the brine lake in search of something edible. Some even venture into the brine. Spending too long in it can send an eel into toxic shock. Its only hope is to rise above it. It manages to escape. Others are not so lucky. The brine embalms their bodies, and the casualties of decades accumulate around the margins. Here on the coast of Peru, there are so many seabirds fishing in the offshore waters that the cliffs are covered in droppings over a metre thick. Humboldt penguins regard the soft guano as a good material in which to dig their nest holes. But it's a messy business. It's the breeding season, and more hopeful nesters arrive, spotless from swimming in the sea. Time for the residents to get cleaned up and catch some fish for themselves and their chicks. To get to the sea, they cross the remains of an old nesting ground. only 100 meters to go. But the beach is already crowded with sea lions. They too have come ashore to raise their young. And they don't like being disturbed. To get through such a minefield needs a bold and courageous leader. A brave start. A dead end. Now he's in trouble. This is going to need a bit of crowd surfing. But now all the sea lions are roused. Getting through them will be tricky. A cleansing bathe in the ocean. Well worth the effort. Forest once covered 80% of Europe. Now, only half of it remains. A brown bear. One of only 1,500 that are left in Finland's forests. Her cubs have recently emerged from their nursery den. The long summer days means there's plenty of time for play. With two boisterous cubs, it pays to rest whenever you can. But their mother must be on her guard. The cubs have spotted something. A large male looking for a mate. The cubs aren't his, so he might try to kill them. Bear cubs are excellent climbers, and now they're beyond his reach, 15 meters up. Their mother warns him to keep his distance. But the cubs are coming down too soon. She can't take any chances. That was a close call. Finland's forests give us a glimpse of what Europe was once like. A land of endless wilderness where large animals roamed far and wide.
She needs to put food in the mouths of her 2 young cubs. There's a bitter winter coming, and if they're not well fed, her cubs won't make it through. This is a hard place to be a mum. The family is not alone. This peninsula is home to 200 brown bears. It's one of the most densely packed populations in the world. The salmon bonanza has attracted others here too. Nobody lives permanently in this remote part of Hokkaido. But one hardy group have special permission to stay here for some of the year. Hokkaido is Japan's second largest island, but the harsh conditions mean it's home to only 4% of its people. Shiratoko is one of the loneliest corners, where you have to live close to the wild. Brown bears can weigh 300 kilos and are not to be messed with. When bears and humans cross paths, things can get dangerous. But here, something astonishing has happened. For the fishermen, bears have become a part of everyday life. It takes some nerve, but the men live alongside them as equals. Tough characters, side by side, both dependent on the salmon run. The mother bear knows what she's doing. Survival is in her blood. Her ancestors came to Hokkaido from Siberia, and they walked here. 12,000 years ago, Hokkaido was joined to the Russian mainland. Siberian animals colonized it before the sea levels rose, turning Hokkaido into an island. It's why the wildlife here is so different from the rest of Japan and so well equipped to face the coming winter. It's when animals leave the forest edge and move into farmland that the relationship with humans becomes less benevolent. The macaques of the lower forests are as bold as their mountain cousins and often venture out in search of new opportunities. There are all sorts of perils, but there are rewards too if you're willing to take some risks. For over 100 years, people have been growing the finest fruit and vegetables on these warm, rich soils. For these cheeky thieves, it's irresistible. Growing perfect produce is a Japanese obsession, so the last thing people want is marauding macaques. As the day heats up, the farmers take a break. The coast is clear. They have to be cautious. If they're spotted, there'll be trouble. But every day they brave the electric fences. They know all the weak spots where they can stage their raids. And they gorge themselves on the fruit of the farmers' labours. They are almost impossible to stop, but the farmers are not prepared to give in. They bring out their secret weapon. Specially trained monkey dogs. The Japanese Shiba Inu is one of the world's oldest breeds, and people have trained them to protect their crops against monkeys. There's even a Japanese saying that when people are fighting, they're like a dog and a monkey. But the rewards outweigh the risks. They'll be back again tomorrow. It's only the warmth of the Kuroshio Current that allows coral to grow this far north in the Pacific Ocean. The current also brings nutrients from the deep. There's one very small resident who never strays far from the reef. He's a blue streak cleaner wrasse, and he leads a very busy life. He eats parasites and dead skin from other fish. But he has to wait for them to come his way. And right now, no one is stopping long enough to give him as much as a nibble. But then he spots something worth chasing. A batfish. Like a customer at a spa, the batfish lies back and waits for attention. It opens its gills and the cleaner wrasse bustles in to begin the treatment. The batfish even changes colour, probably to make parasites more visible. Someone else has arrived at the reef. The batfish is abandoned. There's a visitor from the open ocean that's worth dropping everything for. A manta ray, 2 meters long, has come back to a favourite stretch of reef. He signals to the manta by flicking his tail. And the giant responds by unfurling itself for cleaning. The manta keeps its feeding lobes rolled up while it swims. But a thorough clean keeps them parasite-free. This enormous fish would never visit Japan if it wasn't for the warmth that bathes the island chain and the helpful services of this resourceful little wrasse.